Hey everyone, it's Greg with Advantage One Brokers, and today we have a special guest speaker. He is the Vice President of Advanced Market Solutions out of Quility. His name is Mike Resma. Mike, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, Greg?
I'm doing very well, doing well. So first off, thank you for taking the time to come on board and have this conversation with me, and really to share with all the new agents because we have a lot of agents that are coming on board as part of the Quility family. And one of the biggest questions that I'm getting is like, what's different? Because I talked when I first did my transition, I heard about this program, Debt Free Life,
Right.
and so I kind of heard about it and I saw it. I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. And I talked about the technological advances and the differences in some of the policies that Quility has at its fingertips, but I didn't go into much depth. So that's the purpose of today. We're just going to kind of go into what Debt Free Life is and how agents are using it and how basically they can get access to it. So without
Absolutely.
further ado, man, stage is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. No, debt-free life is something that's absolutely a big passion of mine. It's something that I learned back in 2019. I've been an agent since 2012. I've been an agency owner since 2014. And when I first learned about it, just absolutely hit home with me because there's a lot of people out there in the 1099 world. You always feel like, hey, you're just one sale away from paying off this debt, or one sale away from paying off the next debt, or oh man, I could make 5 more sales and I could buy a car cash, so it's okay if I'm borrowing money from a bank, right? Well, 2019, I ended up having $80,000 worth of credit card debt, had a couple cars. My wife had 3 student loans. And when I learned about this, it absolutely just hit home with me. Like, this is a solution that not only could change my life, but believing in it so much that I know that we can make an impact in the consumers' lives and everything that's going on in our country. There's just so many issues going on with our country that's forcing Americans to get into debt. So fast forward 2 years, I'm into this program. I have 3 policies myself. I've taken my credit score from 640 to 805. We've paid off all of our credit card debt, my wife's 3 student loans. We've upgraded 3 cars since then and upgraded a house since then as well. And now I'm learning how to use these financial vehicles for myself and stuff that's been around for a century. It's just been uncommon. So really what Debt Free Life is it's using our amazing exclusive software that we've built that helps illustrate how you can use participating whole life that has guarantees plus dividends, and showing them how to pay off their debts to the date in order by having this amazing software that creates a report. It'll show them exactly by the date when they're going to take out loans, pay off their debt. And instead of paying a lender, they're building up an asset for themselves and paying themselves back. It's truly revolutionary. But in order to have success in this software or in this program, you have to have our exclusive software that we have.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So that was one of the things that I saw, and I've heard of Debt Free Life before a little bit, but and the way it was explained is just it was super convoluted. It was like very high level. I'm like, man, this is hurting my head just thinking about it.
All right.
And when I was showed when Brian showed it to me when I went to go visit in California, he said, hey, with Quility, what we did is we created this software that's proprietary to us. And it basically got rid of all the stuff that made it super convoluted that no one understood. And it simplified in the process so easy that anybody can do it. You just plug and play, and it shows you exactly, what kind of premium they would have, how that policy would work for them, and how they can get rid of their debt in like 7 to 9 years.
Yeah, exactly. So what we do is the software guides you through everything. Look, you can make things as complicated as you want to, or you can make things extremely simple. And what we learned through our experience, a previous sales system that we learned for this solution set, it was just way more convoluted than it needed to be. It was like a 45-minute presentation about the economy and what's going on. And then at the end of that 45 minutes, they're like, well, hey, let me look at all of your information. And then they wanted to spend another 30 minutes grabbing all of their debt information. And before you know it, it's 2 hours long. Clients weren't really engaged. They had more questions than what we needed to do, because you just need to make it simple and an easy way for people to understand. So basically what Debt Free Life is, it's just using concepts that have been around for literally decades. It's just that we're bringing them to the 21st century with this amazing exclusive software that we have. So basically it's using strategies like the debt snowball. Have you ever heard of the debt snowball?
No, not that term, but please
Yeah,
explain.
so Yeah, so debt snowball is saying, okay, well, let's say you're making a $20 overpayment on one credit card and a $20
Okay.
overpayment on another credit card and maybe a $60 overpayment on an auto loan. Well, instead of making those individual overpayments to those lenders, you lump it all into one and then you attack the smallest balance card first. And then once that card is paid off, you take that minimum payment that you were paying to the lender plus that $100 to attack the next smallest debt. And it worked really well because people saw success in a rather short period of time. But in today's market with 0% loans, promotional balances, and high interest rate cards, that strategy might not be the best for them. So what we've done is we've taken the best things about Snowball and that strategy and brought it to today's market with this software to create a system that breaks down not only the snowball, but also what's called the debt avalanche. Have you ever heard of debt avalanche?
No.
No. So debt avalanche teaches you, instead of paying off the smallest balance first, you attack the highest interest rate first. So methodology there being that, oh, well, if I'm paying off the highest interest rate first, I'm going to save more in interest. But that's not true for everybody. There's one thing that's true in this country is that there's not one cookie cutter program that's best for everybody. So our software has all the algorithms broken down to analyze all the consumers' debt, breaking down their amortization schedules, how much they're scheduled to pay in interest over time, to find that break-even point where more money is going to interest rather than principal. So are you a homeowner right now, Greg?
I am.
So Greg, being a homeowner, are you on a 30-year loan?
I am.
Yeah, so it's going to take you somewhere between 10 and 17 years at that break-even point where more money is going to interest. So what our software is going to do, it's going to break down your mortgage, your auto loans, your consumer debt, personal loans, credit card debt, and it's going to find the optimal way to pay down your debt using a participating whole life insurance policy and taking out loans at specific times. And you're going to know exactly how much interest you're going to save and on what date you're going to pay off those debts. And we're saving people on average $70,608 of scheduled interest, taking it away from the banks and putting it back into the pockets of the American people. Truly revolutionary.
So kind of break down how they're using the life portion and how, like, break down, like, in simple terms, like how does that life portion actually do that?
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're using a specialized participating whole life insurance policy. Participating meaning that you're participating in the company's profits and gains that they have, and they're giving it back to the policyholder in the form of a dividend. Have you ever bought a stock that's paid a dividend before?
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of investors, they want to buy a bunch of stocks that pay dividends because a lot of people want to live off of that dividend income once they become really wealthy, right? So what these policies do is it builds guaranteed cash value. So it doesn't matter if the market goes up, down, or sideways. It's going to get guaranteed cash value. Plus it's going to pay dividends on top of that. And in the last 100 years, do you believe that we've seen some recessions and some wars and the Great Depression in the last 100 years?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So in the last 100 years, these companies have paid dividends every single year, the last 100 years. So even though dividends aren't guaranteed, it's as close to a fully guaranteed product as you can get, because in the last 100 years, we've seen the Great War, we've seen World War II, we've seen the Great Depression, we've seen ups and downs in the stock market, and they've continued to pay these dividends. So what happens, it's kind of like the set it and forget it mentality. We pay money into the premium of the policy. And the important thing about this to know is that it's no additional money than what the client is currently paying. What we're doing is we're finding their inefficient dollars, meaning that if somebody is making those overpayments to their debts, well, instead of paying those overpayments to the debt, they start making their minimum payments and fund the insurance policy. So we have a strategic sales process that identifies where people are putting their money incorrectly or where it could be used more efficiently. And on average, the average case size for this premium is $1,000 a month. So you're not going to get paid the entire commission on that whole 1,000. It's going to be similar to an IUL or be a percentage of it. But these products pay tremendous residuals and renewals years 2 through 10, and then even for the life of the policy. So we take those inefficient dollars, we put it into this participating whole life insurance policy. It's getting guaranteed interest and dividends. And then what we do is you're allowed to take out, with most of the carriers, anywhere between 85 and 90% of the cash value. So the software will break down to a point where the cash value builds up, where there's enough for them to take out to pay off one of their balances, depending on if the software said snowball or avalanche works best. So the software is going to break down their cash value, tell you when to take out a loan from the policy. It's up to the consumer to pay back that loan or not. They don't have to, but what we're showing them is, hey, you would have had to pay that money to Bank of America for the next 5 years. So instead of paying it to them once it's paid off, you pay yourself back, build up more cash value so that when all your debt is paid off, you never have to borrow from a bank again. It's a spin-off of what's called infinite banking. Have you ever heard of infinite banking?
I have heard of infinite banking.
Yeah.
But a lot of people watch this may not have.
Yeah, so infinite banking has been around for a century. It's what some of the wealthiest people in the world have been using. Unless your name was Rockefeller, you couldn't have access to it and didn't know how to use it. So that's why it's important to have our software, because our software shows people how to use these participating whole life insurance policies. Because what happens is right now we've got $21 trillion worth of consumer debt in this country. And the reason why there's so much consumer debt is because the cost of inflation is going up so much. It's not going up at the same rate as the pay scale index. So people are forced to put money on debt, on credit cards and on personal loans. So we're teaching people that they don't have to follow that same mainstream type of traditional lending, that they can actually borrow from themselves and pay themselves back and actually gain interest on the entire cash value and not the net. So here's an important piece of these participating whole life insurance policies that people might not realize. Let's say you got $100,000 worth of cash value, Greg,
Yeah.
Or let's say you have $100,000 in a savings account. You take out 50,000. How much money is sitting in that savings account gaining interest after you've taken out that 50,000?
50,000.
50,000. Well, not in these policies. These policies, you're actually getting, if you have $100,000 worth of cash value, you take out 50,000, you're gaining interest and dividends on that total 100,000, not on the net 50. And this is how you can create tremendous wealth, by getting compounding cash value and dividends on the total amount, not the net amount. Do you know why the insurance carrier can allow you to do that?
No, why?
The reason why they can do that is because technically you're not borrowing money from the cash value of your policy. Technically, you're borrowing money from the insurance carrier's general fund. So what happens is they're giving you interest and dividends on your total cash value, not your net, because you're taking money from their general fund. And the caveat being, if you don't pay back those loans, then it's just collateralized by the death benefit. You're not required to pay it back. So what happens is if you die, you don't pay off those loans, the amount of death benefit that the beneficiary is going to receive, it's just going to be less any outstanding loans plus any interest that was due to be paid that wasn't paid. So that's why these policies are so phenomenal, because you're borrowing money from the general fund and you're getting total interest and total cash or total dividends on the total cash value and not the net. It's the only financial vehicle in the world that will give you interest and dividends on the total amount, not the net amount.
Oh, that's awesome. I know right now people watching this car, probably their minds are being blown. Like, what? Hey, that actually works.
So this infinite banking has been around for 100 years. The person who made it really popular is Nelson Nash. You had to read a book that was 191 pages long called Become Your Own Banker. And even the most savvy financial professionals had a hard time putting it to use. So that's why we wanted to create this exclusive software that can help illustrate it, make it very simple for the consumer to understand. So it doesn't matter your experience level in understanding financial vehicles and retirement assets. We can take somebody who's brand new in the industry and teach them this simplified sales process, because you've got this sales tool and this software to break it down and show them very easily how to be able to use these infinite banking concepts in order to pay off debt. And then for the people that are super analytical, have you ever met an engineer who wanted to know every single detail and every single math equation that was going on?
Absolutely.
Right. So in the software, we keep it really simple for the average American, but for the people that are super analytical, we've got a feature in there that says show calculated data, and it has all of the math every single month of everything that's going on, including the interest, the dividends, taking out loans, the loan interest, how to pay it back. We've got all of it broken down for all of those super analytical engineers that are out there.
Awesome. Awesome. So you talk about this proprietary software that's been built. How is that, how agents get access to that, and how are they getting trained on that?
Yeah, so the people that get access to it, they have to attend our boot camp, because this is something where there can be a lot of details. It's understand how the policies work. You got to understand how to use the software and how to manipulate it and create these reports. So what we do is we'll set up a 2-day boot camp where people get hands-on live training. You're going to understand the approach, how to approach clients. You're going to understand how to walk through and navigate through the software. You're going to understand which carriers to use and which products and why there's differences between the three that we use, how to create the report, how to deal with objections, how to go through the entire process from start to finish. So, and then once you're done with this 2-day boot camp, then you have the ability to go in and get the software and start helping out families get out of debt. So we're going to give you some amazing hands-on training, world-class training that most companies do not offer.
And who has access to that?
So everybody, any Quility powered by Quility company has access, but only if you're a powered by Quility company.
Fantastic. And what is how you I mean, you talked about the training. Do you do any kind of trainings where you'll travel to like a location to do several agents if like they wanted to do like a workshop or something like that?
Exactly right. So right now we have it scheduled where we do it once a month for 2 days. We rotate between North Carolina, Texas, and then California. So next month, September 30th and October 1st, we're doing Texas. But for special groups that come on board and we need to do an impromptu one, then I'll book out my time and make sure it's worth it. And we'll set up a separate one that's not already booked if we have to. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
And for agents that are looking at this and they're starting to think like, how can I use this product to implement my current, clientele? How are agents using it currently?
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing. When I first learned this in 2019, I was already an agent for 7 years. So at that point, I had a tremendous book of business. So first thing I did is everybody's got those clients where, if you called, they would meet with you that same day for 15 minutes and would just call them and say, hey, guess what, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I just learned something that I know you're going to be interested in hearing about. Do you mind if I stop by so I can practice on you and show you what it's all about? And started getting in front. And within my first 3 months, we made sales of $477,000 of premium in 3 months just by reaching out to my existing book and telling them that I had a new solution set to talk to them about and getting out of debt. So this is something where everybody says yes to. One of the approaches is, hey, if I could show you how to get out of debt and build wealth without spending any additional money, is that something that you would want to learn about? Everybody says yes. If you've got a homeowner, you say, hey, if your mortgage and other debts were paid off, would retirement be more comfortable? Every single person says yes to that, right? Yeah. So, and then we teach how to use future pacing questions like, what would your life look like in the future? You're completely debt free. Your mortgage is paid off. How nice is retirement going to be? What would your life be like? And have them think about that moment with their problem being solved. So everybody says yes to this, because one of the things about insurance, not a lot of people like to talk about that and they like to be a secret agent. But with this concept, this is something that you can really get behind. And it's one of the things that we've gotten the most referrals without even having to ask for them because of the amount of value. And there's no competition in this market. There's tons of competition in the final expense market. There's tons of competition in the mortgage protection market, but there's minimal, if zero, competition in this debt market because we're not doing debt consolidation where we're hurting people's credit. So I advise people who have an existing book of business, or you already got clients or leads, you reach out to them, say you just learned something new that that they're going to benefit from. And this is a 2-step close process. The first appointment is just showing them what it's not and what it is and these concepts. And then you're gathering the financial information, and then you're doing all the numbers in the background with the software. And then you run a second appointment, but people are closing 90% using these sales processes in this software for the target market. The target market is somebody who has a mortgage and 3 pieces of consumer debt. Consumer debt meaning that they've got a student loan, personal loan, auto loan, credit card. So a mortgage in 3, or no mortgage in 5 pieces of consumer debt. If you have clients in that target demographic, your closing ratio will be 90% using our sales systems.
That's fantastic. That's awesome.
With an average case size of $1,000 a month.
That's huge. That's huge, because you could close, honestly, you could close like 2 to 3 of those a week.
Oh,
and you're closing over $1 million a year.
Yeah, you're talking about coming from a final expense market or a mortgage protection market. It takes you 5 to 7 sales to equal what it takes in one DFL sale.
Yeah. If someone doesn't have, a book of business, so they're young in the insurance industry, how are they able to do this kind of product with their clients?
Yeah, so when somebody comes on and they're with a powered by Quility company, they're going to be able to get a bunch of pre-designed, really nice marketed social media assets with the text that you need to put on there. We have virtual webinars recorded that people can drive people to a pre-recorded virtual webinar to learn about it and generate leads that way. We've also got some lead systems that we're working on in an evergreen webinar platform. So, reaching out to friends and family, being able to utilize these social media assets that we have to drive them to pre-recorded webinars, and then leads are coming as well.
Fantastic. And then last is there any last notes that you would like to share with any of the agents that are watching this, or if they had more questions, or, places that they could go in order to find out more?
Yeah, biggest thing is you guys all have me as a resource. You can email debtfreelife@quility.com. Again, that's debtfreelife@quility.com. Also talk to your uplines. We'll set up a boot camp for you guys to learn the process and understand how it works. This is something that you can get behind. It is not selling at all. It's something that every consumer in America needs. They need to learn how to stop lending from these dang banks and getting charged all these ridiculous interest rates, and learn how to get into financial freedom themselves. So reach out to debtfreelife@quility.com, talk to your upline. Let's set up a boot camp. Let's get you certified. Our mission is to get rid of $1 trillion of scheduled interest, take it away from the banks and put it back into the pockets of the American people. And it all starts with all of you guys listening right now. So don't delay, get on it.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much for coming on board and taking the time just to kind of share with everybody, with the agents that are watching. And for all of you watching, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you like the channel, subscribe to it, like the video, share it, turn on the notifications so that anytime we have future videos, you're getting notified of it. If you see on Facebook and you think this is something that another agent would be interested in, just share the video with your friends or family. You can even share this video with friends or family that might be interested in this kind of product. And that's the point. So thank you guys for